Nukumanu is probably one of the most remote Pacific islands you could possibly hope to go to. You have to get there via New Guinea from the island of Bougainville. We went on a small government boat. The captain said he didn't need any maps to get there because there were two locals on board and they would just follow the tides and the seaweed and the way the birds flew, and they took us directly to this island. What I didn't know was the purpose of our going was to pick up the children from the island and take them to a school. I had 7 days to film it, and it turned out to be one of the most moving moments of my life, as you'll see at the end of the film.
When the steamer comes, there are tears and partings as the young men leave for wider worlds than Nukumanu. They are drifting away, and this is only the prelude. One day, all of them, young and old, will have gone, and their tiny island kingdom will have fallen. What does the world know of Nukumanu? Only its name on a map of the West Pacific, a tiny ring of reef and sand where travelers never go. Here is a kingdom of 270 souls marooned on a sliver of coral. The children are happy in the sunlight, on the sand, with the sound of the sea breaking on the reef always in their ears. They laugh and play their games, not knowing it will end, not knowing they'll be moved away to New Guinea or to the Solomon Islands. Nature was too kind, and now there are too many children for Nukumanu's slender resources. Meanwhile, the young men are drawn away, leaving too few hands for village work. The fragile balance of nature has been broken. But the children know nothing of this. They laugh and play in the sunlight, as if their life here will go on forever. Like life itself, Nukumanu grew out of the sea. Down here somewhere, the coral polyps found a submerged volcano top or a sunken reef, where depth and warmth of water were to their liking. On this foundation, they built their limestone labyrinths. Then other life forms born on the currents and tides lodged here. This in turn brought fish. So a whole world gradually came into existence, while the polyps built their limestone sculptures towards the light. And when the sea creatures had finished, they'd made a ring of reef around a blue lagoon, a coral atoll which lay for uncounted centuries baking quietly under the sun. Passing seabirds dropped seeds of trees. The tides lobbed coconuts onto Nukumanu's shore, and they sprouted into palms. Vegetation shyly took root in the thin coral sand. And in this vast, remote, impassive sea, there was a tiny circle of life. Baking quietly under the sun, Nukumanu lay for yet more centuries before the brown-skinned people came here. They made their landfall, having sailed westward in their big canoes across 1,000 miles of open sea. How they found this tiny atoll, invisible a few miles away, has all the legendary quality of miracle. Why they came, warfare or simple wanderlust, or the pressure of overpopulation, no one remembers. They brought with them the traditions of Polynesia, the myths and gods, the ordered ranking of society, the communal exchange of goods. They founded a simple kingdom, innocent of warfare, devoid of guilt. Tanaki is the chief's son, but he will never rule Nukumanu. Like many other young men, he's going to New Guinea for wage labor. For those allowed to go, there's work on plantations, or for the descendants of Polynesian seafarers, a job as deckhand on a ship. These are his last months here, and while he's away, his people will have been moved from their crowded paradise. But already the outside world has impinged on their lives. They've come to depend on European trade store buckets and knives, lamps and axes. And all but about 40 young men have gone away to earn money for these things, and also to see something, however fleeting, of the civilization which makes them. And so the chief, Tanaka's father, rules over a kingdom of women and children and the aged. At the men's meeting house, repository of tradition, they still tell the myths and legends of their people, for there are no Christians here. The old ones still tell you each human being receives a shadow at birth. When he learns to crawl, is endowed with a spirit which grows like its owner. And if a man walks with a limp, so does his spirit. The old one describes how he's spoken with his ancestors in a dream. For dreams are conversations between the spirits of men and the spirits of the dead. He talks of the magic spells which must be spoken to pacify the god of the lagoon. And Tanaki listens as if he believed it was all true in this age of radios and steamships, and he would stay to rule Nukumanu when his father dies. The Australians who run New Guinea also took over Nukumanu. They sent a teacher to begin a school, and he was not the first European here. Others had come to start plantations, at first Germans, then Australians. Some died and were buried here. Others went away stunned by the silence and solitude, leaving the people of Nukumanu to themselves. And in time, some of the young men began to leave their island, and no one heard of them, for they couldn't read or write. The government officers tried to stop this adventuring, but they could only delay it. This old woman mourns her son, who sailed away. She talks only of him and asks every stranger she meets to seek him out in New Guinea and send him home, and she will look after him as before, with coconuts and taru. There are many casualties of social change. Atolmi lives alone and mopes along the shore, playing his solitary games, possessed by obscure discontent since his father went to New Guinea. What thoughts pass through his mind? What do the girls think, idly combing each other's hair and going through the ritual of decorating themselves for husbands they will probably never marry? The proportion of young men to nubile girls falls every year. There was no way of stemming the tides of change. They began in earnest years ago with the copra trade. Only their isolation retarded more violent change. Gathering coconuts was no longer something you did for simple survival. You gathered them for a European, a plantation manager, or when he had given up and gone away, the trader who came every few months in a schooner. In return, they gave you knives and axes, sugar and rice and cheap calico printed with bright patterns.